Hey YouTube, in today's video I'm going to be doing a different kind of video. So today I'm going to be discussing Stride, comparison between Stride, Legion, and Limit Break, and even none of the above. So we're going to look at which one's best, or if there even is a best, and in my opinion there really isn't. It really depends on what is the winning image, what is your play style, and like how the deck flows, and do the card choices, do the cards complement each other, do they work together well, so is there synergy. So we'll start off with the first type of Cardfight Vanguard Grade 3 that came out like way back when the game was brand new. So this was just your regular run-of-the-mill Grade 3s. Most of the time these were 10k Grade 3s, then they started moving into 11k, like with Dragonic Overlord, the very first Dragonic Overlord. And they're not Limit Breaks restricted, they're not Legion restricted, they're not Stride restricted. And all the support cards were the same way, like all the Grade 2s, like Blaster Blade and all those guys. Of course, you had the ride chains and things like that. But these cards were very simplistic. They basically had decent effects that could work throughout the whole course of the game or the match. So what's wrong with them? Like, how did they go away and why do people play Limit Breaks? Well, Limit Breaks came out. There's a lot of marketing involved. You know, the anime moved toward Limit Break cards. They were all 11k mostly. There are a couple exceptions like Salome and Jewel Knights, which was a 10k limit breaker, and a couple others. But for the most part, Limit Break had more powerful effects in the way that the cards were set up, and the support, like the Grade 2s and Grade 1s, were designed for certain Grade 3s that utilize Limit Break, like Jewel Knights or even... and later on, Break Ride came out, and that was a whole different ballgame. But anyway, so we had Limit Break, which here's an example of a Limit Break card. So the LB4, and then they had Ultimate Break 2, which was LB5. And then there was Break Ride, which is basically just another variation of Limit Break. And then, of course, they had Cross Rides, which existed all the way back before Limit Break. And then they even had the Cross Break Ride, like this example here, with Minerva and Angelica. So there was the originals, like the N, and then there was the Break Ride and Limit Break era, and then after that came Legion. So Legion, in my opinion, was actually one of the most revolutionary in terms of how it changed the pacing of the game. So originally, you used to guard early. When Limit Break came out, it encouraged people to just no guard a lot in the first half of the match until you hit 4 damage. Then you would start guarding more, and then you'd actually start seeing things happen. So Limit Break was actually kind of slow and boring to watch, at least from the way I remember it. It wasn't that bad. I mean, the Link Joker, there was some stuff that was interesting. And then the cards had really interesting effects. Like, there was a lot of restanding Limit Break cards. Dauntless Drive, Tetra Drive, Minerva, Descendant, you know, a bunch of stuff. And then Legion came in, allowed you to recycle, most of the time people would recycle 4 triggers back into the deck. And then after that, now here we are with Stride-based cards with the GB2. I consider Stride-based cards are cards that have basically like a pseudo Break Ride skill when you Stride, and then they have the Stride fodder, which can also be used to search the Stride Grade 3, or the GB2 Grade 3. And then you have Stride units. So let's talk about Stride for a little bit. So when I think of Stride, I think of a deck that runs Vanguard with GB2. I'm not saying that you can't Stride with any of the older decks. Obviously, I use the Ace with the Great, and I use Demeter with the Regalias, and then all the other kind of old support cards, or Fires Collection or whatever, and even not even that, like just the regular Stride cards. So the Strides are just for the clans themselves, but I think with Stride, the decks that benefit the most from Stride are the ones that have the on-Stride skill Vanguards, like Gavril here, or Chronojet, which is like the most iconic one. And then they have like all the support for that Stride unit. So the thing I noticed observing Stride, the way, at least from Bushiroad, from a development standpoint, and the way they try to make the game play itself out now, is they're focusing more on like a key, like a poster face of the deck. Like, for example, we'll use Gavril here in this video. I'm just using her as an example. This card really makes the Stride Angel Feather deck work. Like the on Stride play when you go into Raphael, or even Uriel, or any of the other ones, it just synergizes a lot more because of the on Stride skill compared to if you were to just, for example, striding the Ace in an Overlord deck. You're not getting any advantage on the stride because this guy doesn't do anything when you stride over him. So that's what I mean. Like, there's an extra ability that goes off in addition to the stride cards effect. You do get the grade 3 underneath it in the hearts effect too. So I think that's why, and it seems to be focused on like a specific grade 3. For example, Chronojet. There's so many stride units that require Chronojet in the heart for Gear Chronicle. Try building a Gear Chronicle Legion deck, or, I mean, they exist, but no one really uses them, or anything that doesn't use Chronojet. That really restricts you to a smaller subset of stride units for that clan. And then, of course, they have the Stride Enabler or Stride Fodder. It's also used to search that grade 3. And the reason why it has that search ability is because oftentimes you don't want to ride the backup grade 3 that you'll put in the deck. You'll prefer to ride the main one, because that one is really the winning image of the deck. It has the GB2 skill and all the other stuff. So that's the thing about Stride. As far as Legion goes in Stride, I still think Legion is a valid option. Obviously, the Cross is a good example of that. It has seen a lot of success this year since its release, although it's kind of died down now since a lot of things have come out since then. But that's just the best example. The Great, obviously, he's been really strong for a long time. He was teched in with the Overlord, the Cross builds, and stuff like that. But Legion, the advantage of Legion is, yes, it allows you to recycle triggers. You can potentially throw back in like heals and criticals and perfect guards and all that kind of stuff. So it helps prevent deck thinning or decking out. And it encourages smart play. Like, you guarding early, so you'll usually be ahead of your opponent in terms of damage. So there's a lot of disadvantages of Legion, because people think there's no disadvantages. There are disadvantages. First of all, from my observation, Legion is slower than Stride. Stride does give you that triple drive if you're striding a lot, whereas Legion is still going to be doing twin drive. Obviously, Legion decks do Stride as well, so don't think that Legion decks, competitive ones at least, don't Stride. They will Stride as well. They'll use their extra grade 3s. They won't get that extra advantage like compared to like Blademaster, but I think they can actually sustain their resources better. I mean, the deck will obviously have a longer deck. It'll be a bigger deck because especially if you're Legioning multiple times. But disadvantages of Legion. So disadvantage, you have to run the mate at like 3 or 4 copies. My philosophy, if I'm gonna run a Legion deck, minimum copies of this card I'm running is gonna be 3 copies and no less. I have seen so many times where 2 of them are in the damage and then the third one is in my hand. So if I want a Legion, then there's only 1 more in the deck. So yeah, 3 copies is the minimum, 4 is required. So the Legion mate oftentimes does take up a lot of space. Like, you would prefer not to have to use so many of them, but because of the law of numbers and stuff, the way probability works, you can potentially lose 2 of them in the damage, or even 3. I've seen that happen sometimes. It's really rare. And especially if you have to ride one. So let's say you ride your Legion mate because it's the only grade 2 that you have, so you ride it, and then you damage check 2 of them, and then you draw your 4th one. Then you're kind of screwed. You have to use that grade 2 plus a grade 1 to stride it off, and then Legion later or something like that. So yeah, the Legion mate is kind of a double-edged sword, the way I think of it, in terms of like how Legion works. So, but overall, I think Legion's still very strong. Limit Break. What is Limit Break good at? Break Riding, in my opinion, isn't so good anymore. It's very slow, and you're going to be giving up a grade 3 that you could have used to Stride for the triple drive and Stride effect instead. But it's still relatively strong. There's still examples. I would think Minerva and Angelica is still relatively strong. Break Ride, Cross Break Ride combo. You just don't see them that much. The nice thing about Limit Break, though, is obviously with Sanctuary Guard being one of the best examples in the current meta, is they are anti-rush decks. in the sense that, for example, if you're getting Ripple Rushed, you ride Minerva and you can just start like smacking them around with your restanding plays. So it's good in that sense. It's anti, and also it kind of is mean against people who are grade locked and if they're not trying to rush you. So it's interesting because the way the game has changed now, there's actually a grade 2 kind of weird mini game or side game that exists right now. So limit breaks kind of work around that. And then of course your old school stuff like the End, you don't see them that much anymore. I mean, the End is still around because of the Legion though. But I'm just talking about like these type of cards. Affects the cards that don't have Legion, GB, or LB on them. These are kind of almost extinct now. I mean, they're still around for fun, but you don't see them that much. But who knows? They'll come back. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. What you think? Limit Break, nothing, none of the above, Legion or Stride. Which one's your favorite and why? And hope you guys enjoy this video. And if you like this kind of video, let me know, and I'll try to think of some other topics to do more like a discussion-based type of video, or like a card analysis, or maybe even a card of the day sort of thing. So as always, guys, stay tuned for more Cardfight Vanguard videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.